Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Trade the Chain. We are going to be as upbeat as possible in these still yet crappy markets. But we are going to cover some interesting things today, and one is going to be Hedera Hashgraph, ticker Hbar, which both are crypto analysts from MarketRebellion.com. Monty and CJ went over earlier today in their members AMA. We also mentioned that we were going to do it this week, and they just got sick and tired of me saying that. Also, our best hair at crypto, Ryan Gorman, is going to bring us a piece of interesting news after that, which states that 2/3 of all U.S. adults are crypto curious. Take that as you might. But, we still having a little sideways day. We're not really happy. There's coins that are down. There's coins that haven't moved. There's really no coins that have gone up. What's going on? We're going to get all into it right after this with Ryan. Take it away, my man.
Thanks, Alex. This is just a reminder that all content provided by Trade the Chain and Market Rebellion is strictly for educational and informational purposes only. Absolutely none of this is investment advice. Do not listen to a word we say at all. Trade the Chain is brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, a global 24/7 community of traders across 23 time zones of all ages, all abilities, all backgrounds, and all skill levels, all using AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help them beat the market. If you too want to trade like a crypto insider and have access to all of these great features and this community, head on over to TradeTheChain.com and check us out.
Yeah, and just checking out some of the instances and trade examples on TradeTheChain.com. A lot of great information. Definitely encourage you to check it out. Going over to MarketRebellion.com/crypto. This is Monty and myself in our community at Market Rebellion. And with us, you get exclusive access to trade ideas on a weekly basis. That's entries, exits, and stop losses with updates throughout the week. We also give access to our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting platform. We have a mobile app for those charting platform as well, and an elite community of traders all throughout the world and much more. If you're serious about trading crypto, this is the service that gives you everything you need all in one place. You can start your first month trial for just $1 at MarketRebellion.com/crypto. Just $1 for entries, exits, stop losses. Try it out. We'd love to have you guys. Before we get into the big boards, any thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about this in the past, and this is something that, we're at Trade the Chain really excited about. Our TTC token, which we can now tell you will be named SENT, S-E-N-T. And that's coming out May 15th. We have a lot of exciting details around that we can't wait to share with you. And those will be coming, in the coming days and weeks. But for now, just remember, SENT token, S-E-N-T. For
Yes.
sentiment, of course.
Or I sent it to you. All right. You guys are supposed to laugh after that. Yes, Monty. Sent token from TTC. Same ticker's the same as the name, SENT. Remember that. One day you'll be sorry. I don't know. We'll be famous.
Do you mind if I show some preliminary designs? Do you mind if I just give a little tease to the audience here?
All right. Fine.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm very excited about this. Like I'm sure many of you are.
It's a sexy logo. I love it.
The Universal S. I love it as well. But there you go. Sentiment on demand. So very excited and can't wait.
Oh, I didn't. You know what I just caught? Did you see that last? I didn't notice this, Ryan. Did you? Pull up that last cent card. Did you see that they incorporated it into the screener, the coin screener?
Yeah, $523.
That's well, folks, $523. Let me tell you something. If that's things to come.
A lot of happy TTC members if that happens.
Absolutely. And by the way, we should mention that this is an IDO. It's a fair market launch. We're not selling it. You actually have to go. When we announce the venue, we are launching it on the offering, initial offering on. You have to go. It's fair market value. There's no pre-sales, no buy. We're not doing any of that. All right. Sorry about that. Go ahead, CJ.
Well, without further ado, let's jump into the analysis then. Going down to tradethechain.com, looking at the coin screener here. Let's see, we are still very bearish on the shorter term timeframes, but remain long-term bullish pretty much across the board. Going into some of our price action and what we've seen throughout the past couple of weeks is more of the same. But I want to make a point, which I made earlier in our member webinar, and that is regarding these oscillators and how price has sort of responded to them when we've reached these prior levels. So I have these green arrows highlighting our technical levels and what we've seen in the past. And what I want to draw your attention to is where the stochastic indicator was, as well as the commodity channel index, when we hit these bottoms. So as you can see in our first bottom here in around January, we both hit those oversold levels and then began to rebound. Once we began to rebound and turn over, that's when price was able to rally to ultimate new highs. Very similar thing occurred when we had that bullish cross and that overextension into bearish territory on the next pump, or the next bottom, I should say, which happened in the 1st of March. Same thing all the way down the line. You know, we get that bullish crossover in the stochastic, and we get into that oversold territory in the CCI. Very close and very similar to now, we haven't seen a bullish engulfing candle come through with strong buyers yet. We've still only seen that hammer right there. Ooh, got a little bit. But you can see, we are very close to those prior levels where we get that bullish cross on the stoch, and then we rebound from oversold levels on the bottom there on the CCI. So judging by the fact that we're hitting those oversold levels on the daily and pressing up against this critical support, I think that we're probably going to bounce from at least 51K. Another thing that I want to touch on is some of the fundamentals of Bitcoin, which have to do with one of Willy Woo's favorite charts, the Rick Ashley Hodler's chart. Shows the individuals who are long-term holders and who have really put Bitcoin away in cold storage is larger now than ever before. And that's really fundamentally bullish for the market collectively and for Bitcoin. Another metric we have here is net entities and their growth. So essentially users of the Bitcoin network is going parabolic, and we have seen an all-time high in users. So very fundamentally bullish all around. The one thing that I will point to that is bearish and a little bit concerning that I mentioned earlier today, it has to do with the MACD crossovers on the weekly charts. Kind of highlighted these intersection levels as well on yesterday's episode of Trade the Chain, but we're coming very close to something similar. Now, one thing I want to just bring your attention to in technical analysis is that these oscillators can remain in overbought or oversold territory for very long and extensive periods of time. And so when you look at things like support and resistance levels, and when you look at candlesticks, they have a little bit more weight in the analysis overall than the oscillators, because they can remain at those overextended levels for quite a certain time. A lot of people here have kind of speculated that there will be some type of bull flag pattern up to that level on Bitcoin, but we have yet to see buyers step in, despite the fact that we're bouncing slightly off of critical support and we have very strong bullish fundamentals. So interesting outline, still kind of bullish despite that crossover potential on the weekly MACD.
Yeah, CJ, you kind of looked, at the closer timeframes here. I want to take a step back and look at, kind of where Bitcoin's at in its current market cycle. But not only that, I want to look at the role it plays in the overall crypto ecosystem, because, obviously Bitcoin is got that first mover advantage. It's by far the biggest, and it plays a very important role in determining kind of not only the health of the crypto market, but also where people are looking. And one chart that's really good for that is the Bitcoin Dominance Index. So, this is the weekly chart in the Bitcoin Dominance Index. And as you can see, the last 5 weeks, we've really kind of been declining a lot. And the way I like to look at this chart is kind of looking at as, a gauge on, people's willingness to take risk within the crypto space, right? Because the last time we saw this significant of a decline was all the way back here at the end of 2017, running into 2018, when we saw, that Coinbase mania and Bitcoin hitting its first all-time high of 17K. But with that came, a huge influx in speculation into the altcoin assets. We saw XRP, we saw Litecoin actually outperform Bitcoin during this period right here when we were seeing, Bitcoin dominance really slipping. And I think we're starting to see something similar right here. Bitcoin made a very nice run up to into the 60K range, but now it's giving a little bit back. And I think, people are speculating on the role that Doge has played in this. But I mean, even if you look at an asset like ETH is performing well today, despite the fact that Bitcoin is kind of still not performing very well. So when you start to see that divergence in the price performance of Bitcoin and ETH, you can kind of start assuming that the retail audience is more willing to take risk on these altcoin assets. So I expect Bitcoin dominance to continue to fall. And as a result, I expect altcoins to continue to see an increase in speculation. Here's another visualization of basically the same principle. This is from 2 days ago. So this is already, changed to 52% since then. But I mean, you can see that although Bitcoin, people think of it as just this monster that can't be overtaken, I really do think that there's a lot of the market share that can be given up to a lot of these altcoins, because I mean, Bitcoin, it's great, but its utility is mainly a store of value and a safe haven asset, right? It doesn't necessarily fit the bill of a utility asset that a lot of these assets do. So I think, as time goes on and as more money flows into the crypto market, we'll start to see a lot of these altcoins that, serve a utility like decentralizing finance or an NFT. We'll start to see those start to reclaim some of this market share. And, Bitcoin will still always be very important to the crypto ecosystem. But I think that, in general, there's room to give to some of these other altcoins. So I think we're entering into an interesting stage here with Bitcoin dominance falling. So watch the alts closely as Bitcoin gives up part of the market share.
So you talk about the bullish case for the most part, right? And how you expect it to recover. What Bitcoin's below its 50-day moving average, right? You don't think that, especially when you combine it with sentiment right now and trade the chain, the hourly sentiment is at the lowest I've ever seen it for Bitcoin. And we're neutral on the daily sentiment, right? And we've been negative or bearish rather on the hourly sentiment for, I don't know, a few days now. Every time I look at it, it's negative. Bullet. Marbles in my mouth. I'll get to it eventually. Every time I look at the hourly sentiment, it's bearish. So that to me says that sentiment's been bearish for 3 days, and now we're below the 50-day moving average. It should recover soon, but it doesn't feel to me like it's going to go back up meaningfully, at least this week, especially with the weekend looming.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you, Ryan. I don't think that Bitcoin necessarily needs to reverse right now in order for the rest of the market to still perform well. I think we can see Bitcoin trade in a bit of a range-bound fashion for the next few weeks, while money still floods into the space and, we see some alts pump. But I agree with you. Like, sentiment is just not strong. Even the technicals that CJ pointed out, I mean, they're not looking, all that convincing that we're set to break to the upside. So I think we might be in for a couple of weeks of, range-bound trading in a sideways fashion. Which nobody likes to hear, obviously. But
Alex,
I don't want to talk about sideways range-bound trading. That's not my shtick. I only speak when it's going up. Okay. All right. Let's move on to Hedera. Okay, Hbar, you guys put out a really decent presentation earlier today on it, and we promised the folks that we were going to deliver it. So what do you guys have? What did you put together? And give us some good news.
Yes, well, this is good news, right? Because like I said, although Bitcoin may be trading sideways for a couple of weeks, there's still going to be a lot of speculation happening in the altcoin market. And I think one asset that could definitely be a benefactor of that is Hbar. So this morning when I before we did the daily crypto bite in the morning, I was taking a look at Trade the Chain, and I noticed that the relative trading volume for Hbar was up, despite the fact that sentiment was kind of unchanged. But it's still up 32% on the day. So that was the first thing that caught my eye. Further, I want to take a look at the 1 hour chart, because I think Hbar, it's one asset that, since its run up to 45 cents, has been somewhat consolidating. But that being said, it still is very susceptible to the momentum of the market. So as you can see, I mean, we've swung between 38 cents and 28 cents just in the last 72 hours. And I think that this is something that, we're going to continue to see. So right here, we bottomed on this TD sequential 9 on the 1 hour. And once we crossed above this 20 period moving average, for me, that's an indication that, this thing might be finding some strength, because in the past, when we've seen a cross above this, 20 period moving average, that's when we tend to get, some bullish price action. So as you can see, we're in a similar position down here, at the start of this month. But when we crossed the 20 period moving average after putting in this low, we saw some continued bullish price action, and we ran up all the way to 42 cents. So despite the fact that, Bitcoin is a bit range bound currently, I still think there's plenty of opportunities to play the alts. And this is one in particular that I love right now because of the building trading volume, and because of the fact that it's breaking above this moving average right here. That in combination with the strong support to the downside at 0.28 and 0.265, and also the lack of resistance to the upside until 0.38, makes me think that, even in a sideways market, this could be a very profitable trade. So Hbar, full disclosure, I entered, I've been holding for a while, but I increased my position this morning following this
revelation
here. So
this is almost, if you could just keep this chart up for a second, it almost looks like an inverse head and shoulders pattern. It's not perfect, but if you look at the volume, it would be very characteristic. Starting on Sunday, see how you have that left leg up in the first shoulder, then in the head, you have a little bit more spike in volume, and then the third shoulder on the right side will usually play out in a bullish fashion. So pretty interesting to see that on the 1 hour. I just want to highlight a range real quick that Hbar is in, but I really agree with Monty's analysis. And if you want weekly updates and entries and exits on that Hbar trade, I'm sure Monty would be happy to update you as part of the community. But right here, support and resistance. That is the range that we're in right now. You can see on the oscillators starting to pick up just a little bit, but not quite. I think if we break this resistance right here and get a nice candle, we could go to like 60 cents, possibly even start that parabolic move back to $1. But I think we have to break 40 first. I think that's a critical breakout level, which has the potential to push us even further into new highs.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, CJ. And one last point I want to leave you guys with is, I think it's so important, especially when we're talking about Bitcoin being range bound, to look at momentum with these altcoins. And one way I like to do that is just to look at the coin screener page and sort by relative trading volume. So, that's kind of the first thing I do in the morning every day is I just go on Trade the Chain. I look at that relative trading volume, and that can give you a great indication of kind of what assets are, getting some retail attention today. And, if you can kind of start, watching that trading volume, that can really tell the whole story. So that's just what I've been doing.
Same. I've been doing that exact same thing. I want to talk about Trade the Chain one more time before I pass it off.
It's like king of the shills over here. Keep going.
I know, but like we do use it. We do use it on a daily basis. At least I do, to pick out, the doges of the day for the daily crypto bite earlier. My choice was banned. I really loved that hammer candle, but more importantly, hold up, got to log in to Trade the Chain. Sorry about that, guys.
I want to just, while you're pulling that up, I just want to one little end cap to HBAR. About a week ago, it was reported that they hit 1 billion transactions. And that's actually significant. To give you a concept of that, Bitcoin is just over 700 million transactions, and Ethereum just hit 1 billion transactions earlier this year. So that's actually a big deal.
All right, coming down a little bit neutral now, but earlier this morning, we had a very nice technical setup, and shorter term on that 1 hour sentiment, it was very bullish on band. And so I really liked that. Soon afterwards, I think we had about a 5% jump. Really useful. Just thought I'd, pay homage to that.
All right. So next is really interesting. Mr. Gorman, who brings us our news when there is news, has come today saying that 2/3 of US adults are crypto curious. Ryan, can you delve into this? Break this down for us.
Yeah, sure. So Jim and I recently did a survey of 3,000 US adults, and 63% of them who are no coiners are curious about crypto. And what's even more compelling is that more than half of them are women. So the average profile of a crypto investor right now is a 38-year-old male, makes just over $100,000 a year, according to this survey as well. And if more than half of respondents to the survey that are open to buying crypto that don't have it yet are women, including 25% of them women nearing retirement age, I think we're about to see crypto. This to me feels like crypto is going to go mainstream, right? Because this also aligns really well with, a survey eToro did of their users earlier this year, where in the US, they found that women investors were growing, the percentage of women investors was growing at a rate 5 times higher than the percentage of male investors. So this kind of, confirms what eToro was seeing on their platform across a much wider sample set, or a much wider range of population. And ultimately, it feels like maybe with ETFs about to come online, with more on-ramps existing through Venmo, through PayPal, through Square, through all these other different options that people now have, maybe we're about to have that Cambrian explosion of Bitcoin and crypto adoption that everyone keeps saying is on the way. It's on the way. It's on the way. I long ago stopped holding my breath. I'd be blue in the face. But it feels like perhaps maybe now we're actually getting closer to that.
I'm curious on the fact, I found it interesting that on the male side, it's 38-year-old millennials. And then on the female side, I guess, would those be boomers? I don't know what a retirement female looks like.
Well,
that came out really wrong. I just before there's a demand for a public apology, I just want to apologize. I didn't phrase that. I don't even know how to phrase that. So
what's the demographic of a female nearing retirement age? Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
There we go. Someone in their late 50s probably. So a female in her late 50s who has money saved, who's investing mostly conservatively, because at that age, whether you're male or female, you're looking more at capital preservation and income generation than you would for the typical crypto investor who's younger and just degenerately gambling into it, like you and I, Alex.
So basically, we're saying retired women are taking a look at being degenerate gamblers, while the men already are.
Bingo.
Huh? That's interesting.
Well,
I thought it would be the opposite. I always found that females were way more responsible than males, and they would be thinking about wealth preservation more. Or are you saying Bitcoin is a store of value type wealth preservation?
No, I think it's more just looking for a diversification and generating maybe a little bit of growth on the side as part of that, 70-30 allocation you'd have at that age of 70% bonds, 30% equities. You pop 1 or 2% of that into crypto to see what happens.
Okay, I'm not going to comment on the story any further. Market rebels. Nope, I guess not. Well, there you have it, folks.
I thought CJ had something to say, so I was going to let him go. But
yeah, it looks like he had something to say.
I do, but I want to be careful before I say it.
That's what I'm saying. You know what you do, CJ? Just have Ryan speak to you that for you. That's why he's in PR. Just say, Ryan, this is what I want to translate. Will you say this to the crowd?
Yeah. I'm not going to say what I was, but the thing that I think is really interesting, specifically about millennials, is that this is a point that Tom Lee had brought up in around 2017, 2018 about millennials and how they contribute to Bitcoin's growth. And it's interesting because in 2016, when Bitcoin first made its new high, that was the year in which the first millennials entered into their prime income earning years. We've seen millennials affect the housing market. We've seen them affect the RV market even. Due to millennials buying RVs, we have more than we did in the baby boomer generation. You just get weird, interesting facts like that. But you probably wonder where I'm going with this, and that is in the year 2028, that is when the average millennial reaches their peak income earning years. Millennials are much more interested in Bitcoin as opposed to baby boomers who are, say, more interested in gold. And we're going to have this massive wealth transfer of baby boomers' wealth going into the hands of millennials. And when we have the year 2028, when millennials are entering their peak income earning years, we're also going into the last significant block halving on Bitcoin. So that year is very interesting in the future. And yeah, that was a long tangent.
I think that's
Basically,
great.
bag up on Bitcoin.
I think that, yeah, I think it's great advice for millennials. Listen, kids, you guys only have 7 more years until you're petering out, all right? And you're sundowning off of that earning factor. So bag up while you can. Interesting. Wow. I don't know what else to say. Anybody else have any comments before we go?
I think it's I'm good.
All right, because I don't know. I think it was the title of the article that really just tripped me up there at the end. We were doing so well, I thought. Folks, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a lovely hump day. Let's hope for greener markets tomorrow and join us again then, and we'll see what happens. Hang on to your handlebars. No honey holes today, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.